To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. The Trump administration made a major move today, one that could prove ultimately to be the moment it crossed the Rubicon. It is still very early, too early to make that determination, but the optics are stunning nonetheless. Just before 7 this morning, the FBI initiated a search on former ambassador and national security advisor John Bolton's home and office. Bolton, as you will remember, was NSA under Donald Trump in his first administration, a tour of duty that did not end well. Bolton left the White House in conflict with the president and has been searingly critical of him ever since. Bolton's major complaint? That Trump was cavalier with national security, putting his own interests above American safety, and described multiple instances of what he called misconduct or incompetence on foreign affairs. He even wrote a book about it. Then, when the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago after multiple requests for the, at the time, former president to turn over classified documents, John Bolton told me this.
The reason why he kept them is not relevant. The fact is, whatever the reason, he put these documents in jeopardy. It might be worse if Russia or China had actually picked them up, but the crime here, the crime for him and every official of the executive branch that deals with classified information is not to mishandle them in a way that puts that at risk. But why did he keep the documents? Because he liked to say, I've got it and you don't. Because he thought it would be cool. Because it just struck his fancy on any given day.
Now, back in the White House, Donald Trump's administration is trying to turn the tables, and they are claiming it is not retribution. Here is the vice president, who, as it happens, just sat down with Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker.
As you know, Ambassador Bolton is a frequent critic of President Trump's. He's also on Kash Patel's enemies list. The administration has already revoked his security clearance, Secret Service protection. Is Ambassador Bolton being targeted because he's a critic of President Trump?
No, not at all. And in fact, if we were trying to do that, we would just throw out prosecutions willy-nilly like the Biden administration DOJ did, prosecutions that later got thrown out in court. If we bring a case, and of course we haven't done that yet, the Department of Justice has not done that yet, we are investigating Ambassador Bolton, but if they ultimately bring a case, it will be because they determine that he has broken the law. We're going to be careful about that. We're going to be deliberate about that because we don't think that we should throw people, even if they disagree with us politically, maybe especially if they disagree with us politically, you shouldn't throw people willy-nilly in prison. You should let the law drive these determinations, and that's what we're doing.
But you know, a lot of people have already looked at this and said, this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution, Kristen? A lot of people who tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for completely fake charges that were later thrown out by multiple different courts. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here, and that's as it should be.
Joining us now, MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian, who's outside of John Bolton's home, NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake, D.C. correspondent covering the Justice Department for the New York Times, Glenn Thrush, and MSNBC legal analyst and former U.S. attorney in Michigan, Barbara McQuaid. Ken, the FBI got there just before 7 this morning. Are they still there?
They are indeed, Katie. We just saw a couple of agents or technicians leave with their FBI windbreakers and get in some of the vehicles and depart, but there are some still inside. And so now we're in excess of 7 hours in Ambassador Bolton's sort of modest suburban house here in Bethesda, Maryland, as compared to the 9 hours that the FBI spent searching a much larger Mar-a-Lago compound. So that's just interesting to note. Of course, when the FBI searches your house, they are meticulous and they go through everything and they look for all your electronic devices and they go through every scrap of paper. It's one of the most fearsome powers that the government can wield, short of taking your freedom away. And now it's obviously happening in a climate where the FBI and the Justice Department have been politicized as we've never seen in modern American history. And of course that raises a host of questions, but we should also keep in mind that in order for this search to have happened, a magistrate judge, an independent federal judge, had to have signed off on it and ruled that there was probable cause to believe that there was evidence of a crime, fresh evidence that could be found in the house behind me. And so we don't know what that evidence was yet. We don't know what the justification was. At some point, if this case moves along, we will see that affidavit and we can judge for ourselves. But right now, we're left with a lot of questions here because, as you well laid out, John Bolton has been an ardent critic of the president. He wrote a book, a memoir of his time as national security advisor, and some top officials in the Trump administration at the time did say that there was classified information in that book. He has always disputed that. There was an investigation. It's been reported. There was a civil action against Mr. Bolton, but there was also a criminal investigation that was dropped at the beginning of the Biden administration. It's unclear whether what we're seeing behind me is the Trump Justice Department picking that back up, or is there new information? These are all questions that need to be answered. But again, it's coming in a climate where a lot of people are very concerned about the other actions by the Trump Justice Department and the Trump FBI.
Well, they're concerned about retribution. Glenn, the vice president a moment ago with Kristen Welker, who just happened to have a pre-scheduled interview with him, again, better to be lucky than good. I'll take that anytime, certainly. She asked him about the retribution, and he just went off on a tirade, not a tirade, but went off talking about how they're going to do things by the book when the Biden administration did not. Can you contextualize that for us?
Well, I was struck by the first person plural that he repeatedly used to discuss the Justice Department. Now, technically, the President of the United States appoints the Attorney General and the FBI Director, but the sense of the proprietary we are investigating, we are looking into, we will behave in a way that is judicious, legal, and circumspect, just struck me as a very interesting way to phrase that. I, as you have encountered White House officials and senior administration officials discuss matters involving the Justice Department in a very different way, saying that the Justice Department will have to make that determination, et cetera, et cetera. So that one of the things that really struck me was kind of his tone. What we have learned this morning is that the investigation pertains to the possession as well as potentially leaking sensitive national defense information or classified information, which is a subset of that larger pile. And interestingly, we've been steered away from this notion that this material was collected to help him write his book, which is the substance of most of the public accusations on the right against Bolton. Instead, we have told that the material that they are looking for pertains to the last 4 years, which would tuck it under any potential statute of limitations and brings it more into the here and now. Question that raises, of course, in conversations with current and former Justice Department officials, is John Bolton has not had access to really sensitive national defense information. He's been out of government for half a decade. So what exactly are they talking about? From my perspective, what would be extraordinarily useful is what the Garland Justice Department did after the Mar-a-Lago search, which is to quickly release the affidavit used to justify. What evidence did they have that led them to believe that there was something in Bolton's house and office that was of value? I think that is, in terms of the information we do not currently possess, the thing that the Trump Justice Department could do immediately that would clarify some of this.
That first person plural really caught my attention as well, and especially when I compared it to what Donald Trump was saying a little bit earlier. There are two sound bites, one Donald Trump talking about the Bolton FBI search, and then it will be followed up by a little bit more from the vice president talking about it. Listen to these two answers.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. He's like a very quiet person, except on television. If you could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. Not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it.
Can you tell me, why is the FBI raiding Ambassador Bolton's home and office, and did the White House get a heads up?
Well, so we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.